As the ship went down, survivors in nearby lifeboats could see the four chaplains, arms linked and braced against the slanting deck. The courageous quartet, their voices could also be heard offering prayers. Of the 902 men aboard the SS Dorchester, 672 died, leaving 230 survivors. When the news reached America's shores, the nation was stunned by the magnitude of tragedy and the heroic conduct of the four chaplains. That night, Reverend Fox, Rabbi Good, Reverend Poling, and Father Washington passed life's ultimate test. In doing so, they became an enduring example of extraordinary faith, courage, and selflessness. Carl Sandburg once said, "Valor is a gift. Those hearing it never know for sure whether they have it until the test comes."
Those who have served and those currently serving in the uniformed services of the United States are ever mindful that the sweetness of enduring peace has always been tainted by the bitterness of personal sacrifice. We are compelled to never forget that while we enjoy our daily pleasures, there are others who have endured and may still be enduring the agonies of pain, deprivation, and imprisonment. We pause to recognize our POMIAs. We call your attention to this small table, which occupies a place of dignity and honor. It is set for one, symbolizing the fact that members of our armed forces are missing from our ranks. They are referred to as POWMIAs. We call them comrades. They are unable to be with their loved ones and families, so we join together to pay tribute to them and to bear witness to their continued absence. The table is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his or her suppressors. The tablecloth is white, symbolic of the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call of arms. The single rose in the vase signifies the blood they may have shed to sacrifice and ensure the freedom of our beloved United States of America. This rose also reminds us of the family and friends of our missing comrades who keep the faith while awaiting their return. The red ribbon on the vase represents ribbons worn on the lapels of thousands who demand, with unyielding determination, a proper account of our comrades who are not among us. A slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of their bitter fate. The salt sprinkled on the plate reminds us of the countless fallen tears of the families while they wait. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us at this time. The chair is empty. They are not here. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope, which lives in our hearts and illuminate their way home, away from their captors, to the open arms of a grateful nation. The American flag reminds us of the many of them will never return and have paid the supreme sacrifice to ensure our freedom. Let us pray to the Supreme Commander that all our comrades will soon be back within our ranks. Let us remember and never forget their sacrifices. May God forever watch over them and protect them and their families.
Lieutenant Fox was born March 15, 1900, in Lewistown, Pennsylvania. When he was just 17, he left school and with strong determination convinced the military authorities that he was 18 and joined the ambulance corps of the United States. At that time, he entered World War I. In the ambulance corps, he embarked from Texas to New Jersey and boarded the USS Horn en route to France. As a medical corps assistant, he was highly decorated for bravery and was awarded the Silver Star and Purple Heart of the French Croix de Guerre. Upon his discharge, he completed his high school and went to work for the Guarantee Trust Company. In 1923, he married his bride, Isidore, and entered Moody Institute in Illinois and became a Methodist preacher. After several successful years, he entered Illinois University in Bloomington in 1929 and graduated with an A.D. degree, ordained as a Methodist minister on June 10, 1934, and graduated with a theological degree thereafter. He was appointed pastor of the Waits River, Vermont in 1936. He accepted the pastorship in Union Village, Vermont. His next calling was Gilmore, Vermont, where he joined the Walter G. Moore American Legion Post 41. He was later appointed state chaplain and historian for the Legion. Then during World War II, George decided to join the Army Chaplain Service and on active duty on August 8, 1942. His son, White, also enlisted in the Marine Corps. George was assigned to chaplain school in Harvard, and as an Army chaplain, George L. Fox then reported to the 411th Coast Guard Artillery Battalion in Camp Davis. He was 42 when he was reunited with the chaplains Goody, Poland, and Washington at Camp Miles, Standish, and Trenton, Massachusetts, for their fateful trip on the U.S. Army Troop Transport Dorchester.
Rabbi Alexander D. Good. Alexander D. Good was born in Brooklyn, New York on May 10, 1911. His father was rabbi and his mother, Faye, had two sons, Joseph and Moses, and a daughter, Agatha. Alex received medals at Eastern High School, Washington, D.C. for tennis, swimming, and track. He led his class in scholarship too. He planned to follow in his father's footsteps and become a rabbi, but that did not keep him from having a laughing, shouting, hail fellow, well-met boyhood. With all the Protestant and Catholic boys in his neighborhood, he graduated from Eastern in 1929. He entered the University of Cincinnati and graduated in 1934 with an A.B. degree, and then on to Hebrew Union College with a B.H. degree in 1937. He later received his Ph.D. from Johns Hopkins University in 1940. Alex married his childhood sweetheart, Teresa Flax, daughter of Nathan and Rose Flax. Teresa was a niece of singer and motion picture star Al Jolson. They were married on October 7, 1935. His first assignment as an ordained rabbi was at a synagogue in Marion, Indiana in 1936. On July 16, 1937, he was transferred to Beth Israel Synagogue in York, Pennsylvania until mid-1942. Alex and Teresa had a daughter, Rosalie, who was born in 1939. Rabbi Good applied to become a chaplain with the U.S. Navy in January of 1941, but he was not accepted at that time. Right after Pearl Harbor, he tried again, this time with the Army, and received an appointment on July 21st, 1942. Chaplain Good went on active duty on August 9, 1942, and he was selected for the chaplain school at Harvard. He had courses in map reading, first aid, law, chemical warfare. Chaplain Good was then assigned to the 333 Air Base Squadron in Goldsboro, North Carolina. In October 1942, he was transferred to Camp Miles Standish in Taunton, Massachusetts, and Alex was reunited with Chaplains Fox, Poling, and Washington, who were classmates at Harvard. It was January 1943, he boarded the USAT Dorchester in Boston and embarkation to Greenland. Chaplain Good was killed in action on February 3rd, 1943, in the icy water of the North Atlantic, with the Dorchester was sunk by a German U-boat.
Pastor Clark V. Poling. Clark V. Poling was born August 7, 1910, in Columbus, Ohio. He was the son of Susan Jane Vandersall of East Liberty, Ohio, and Daniel A. Poling of Portland, Oregon. Clark's siblings were Daniel, Mary, and Elizabeth. Clark attended Whitney Public School in Auburndale, Massachusetts, where his teachers remembered his maturity and delicate side of his nature. The Auburndale days ended when his mother died in 1918. She is buried at Green Lawn Cemetery, Uniontown, Ohio. Clark's father was an evangelical minister, and in 1936 was rebaptized as a Baptist minister. Reverend Daniel Poling was remarried on August 11, 1919 to Lillian Diebold Heingarten of Canton, Ohio. Clark attended Oakwood, a Quaker high school of Poughkeepsie, New York, and was a good student and an excellent football halfback. Clark was a council member and president of the student body. In 1929, he enrolled at Hope College in Holland, Michigan, and spent his last 2 years at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey, graduating in 1933 with an A.B. degree. Clark entered Yale University's Divinity School in New Haven, Connecticut, and graduated his B.D. degree in 1936. He was ordained in the Reformed Church in America, and his first assignment was the First Church of Christ, New London, Connecticut. Shortly thereafter, he accepted the assignment of pastor of the First Reformed Church in Schenectady, New York. Clark was married to Betty Jung of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and the next year, Clark Jr., also to be known as Corky, was born. With our country now at war with Japan, Germany, and Italy, he decided to become a chaplain. Talking with his father, Dr. Daniel A. Poling, who was a chaplain in World War I, he was told that captains in that conflict sustained the highest mortality rate of all military personnel. Without hesitation, he was appointed on June 10, 1942 as a chaplain with the 131st Quartermaster Trek Regiment and reported to Camp Shelby, Hattiesburg, Mississippi on June 25, 1942. Later, he attended chaplain school at Harvard with chaplains Fox, Good, and Washington after his transfer to Camp Miles Standish in Taunton, Massachusetts. Shortly after, the USAT Dorchester was sunk on February 3, 1943. His wife Betty gave birth to a daughter, Susan Elizabeth, on April 20th of 1943.
John P. Washington. Father John P. Washington was born in Newark, New Jersey on July the 18th, 1908. His parents were Frank and Mary. In addition, they had daughters, Mary and Anna, and sons Thomas, Francis, Leo, and Edmund. In 1914, John was enrolled in St. Rose de Lima Catholic Elementary School. In those days, times were rough for a poor immigrant family, but John helped out. He took a newspaper route to help his mother with extra money. John was active in sports, and he also began piano lessons. He loved music and sang in the church choir. When he entered 7th grade, he felt strongly about becoming a priest. During the previous year, he had become an altar boy, and his priestly destiny was in process. John entered Seton Hall in South Orange, New Jersey to complete his high school and college courses in preparation for the priesthood. He graduated in 1931 with an AB degree. He entered Immaculate Conception Cemetery in Darlington, New Jersey, and received his minor orders on May 6, 1933. John excelled in the cemetery, was a subdeacon at all solemn masses, and later became a deacon on December 25, 1934. John was elected prefect of his class and was ordained as a priest on June 15, 1935. Father Washington's first parish was at St. Geneva's in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and then he served at St. Benedictus for a year. In 1938, he was assigned to St. Stephen's in Arlington, New Jersey. Shortly after the Pearl Harbor attack on December 7, 1941, he received his appointment as a chaplain in the United States Army. Excuse me. Father Washington went on active duty on May the 9th, 1942. He was named Chief of Chaplains Reserve Pool in Fort Benjamin Harrison, Indiana. In June 1942, he was assigned to the 76th Infantry Division in Fort George Meade, Maryland. In November 1942, he reported to Camp Miles Standish in Taunton, Massachusetts, and met Chaplains Fox, Good, and Poling at the chaplain school at Harvard. Father Washington boarded the USAT Dorchester at the embarkation camp in Boston Harbor in July 1943 en route to Greenland. Chaplain Washington was killed in action February 3rd, 1943, when the Dorchester was sunk on German U-boat.
lesson do we hear from the chaplains? Not a single one of them thought that they were more important than any other soldier on that ship. They had children, they had wives, they had families. That didn't matter at a moment when the entire place was filling full of water and it was going down, and it was not warm water. This was not going to be an easy, comfortable death. But they didn't think about that in offering their lives. There's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2. And the chaplain brought it up tonight as he shared. None of them, as they're sitting there, thought themselves, you know what? Do I have any Democrats? I'm a Democrat. I got a Democrat? Did they ask an opinion or how they should run the country? It didn't matter. It was about keeping and saving our country and those that were going to live on. And they passed on their life. It was not a question of what their beliefs. Today, I wonder, in our society that we are in today, whether if we had a life vest, whether we would go looking for someone who would cast the same vote as us. They didn't go looking for that. It was just the next person. Third lesson. More than anyone, they understood what a life was worth. And when those next men walked up and they had passed out the last of the life vests, I wonder if they looked around and looked at the life vests on their chest and wondered, how long did they take? But you know, in the end, does it really matter how long it took? From a second to a few minutes, they picked up and took off their life vest and they passed it to someone else. Because you know what? They saw value in the life of the next soldiers. The last lesson. Most important of all. Why is it most important of all tonight? Because you have a rabbi. You have pastors, and you have a priest. And while that may sound like the beginning of a joke, it is not a joke. And the chaplain brought this up as well. They didn't go, oh, wait a minute, where's the next Jewish guy? Let me hand out my life vest to that person. It was just the next soldier up. As I close, I want you to think about this. These 4 gentlemen up here, their legacy is tearing down walls. And the walls between denominations and people and differences, you know what? Our Father in heaven, He didn't create them. We built them. We are building them. Every single day. Take a moment in your mind and think, who do you hang out with? Are they the people that are most similar to you? Or do you even have people within your life that are different from you? Because you know what? The person I was playing was not someone who didn't know the difference between right or wrong. It's someone that didn't have enough hope to keep going and said, you know what? I'll just build the walls and I will hide behind them. So here it is, as I close. Each tonight offers you a life vest. Question is whether you're going to accept it or not. What does that mean, whether I accept it or not? Are you going to accept the challenge of taking walls down? Are you going to accept the challenge of having hope when no one else does? Are you going to accept the challenge that you have a belief in something? I want you to imagine, they believed enough that it didn't matter the boat was sinking. They had hope and faith that, you know what? My life is taken care of. Are you brave enough and strong enough to take down the walls? And are you brave enough and strong enough to pass this life vest onto someone else? Are we Americans first? Are we brothers and sisters first? And if we do that, these four men will be remembered forever. Thank you.
I think this is just another example of educating our youth, letting people remember things, symbology behind a lot of stuff that we do as part of being Americans. What's important here is it was total sacrifice for their fellow man. With a lot of planning on their part. It just did what was right. It's a matter of what we inherently have as soldiers, the ability to just sacrifice, not for yourself, but for your buddies, because that's what we do on the battlefield, and this is what they did with the boat here. Just the fact that they didn't know all these people, and they knew they had the last few life jackets left, and gave them away without a second thought. It says, you know, I'm willing to lay my life down for you, and they did that. Having people remember that, and you notice most of the dates here are in the early 1900s to 1930s and early 40s. For some people, it's a long time ago, and in history, in a nation that's 240-something years old, that is kind of a long time ago, but it's not really. It's what we built a lot of our values on, was people like this. So we need not forget these kind of things, and we need to make sure that we have younger people around when we tell the stories. We think that's important.